much can someone really know, like, and trust you if you don't even know what makes their business? I wouldn't talk about automations and agents. I would just say, where are you spending a significant number of hours per week? The typical AI builder is selling to a cold audience, and there is no like, and trust. We scroll all the way to the bottom to get the price, and it's always more than we were expecting. If it's just, thanks for the proposal, we'll get back to you, most of the time they won't. As humans, we're looking for the easy button, but there really isn't much of an easy button.
Good day to you and welcome back to the Harvest Podcast, which is where we talk about how to extract more from your existing customers rather than just going after shiny new logos continuously. On this episode, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Jennifer Bleam. Now, you may not know, depending on which side of the pond you're from, if you're from the US, there's no chance you don't know Jennifer if you're in the MSP space. She is a sales Sherpa extraordinaire is her title. And basically, she's coached thousands of MSPs and built multiple million-dollar business divisions. She's really something of an authority on the sales side of things. She's also scaled a cybersecurity firm straight to acquisition and has this long list of credentials like SharTech Sales Lab, Sandler Sales Academy, CRN Woman of the Channel Award. So she's been there and she's done it. So what you're going to get in this episode is zero BS, as always. And we're going to be talking about perhaps why you might not know your clients as well as you think you do, how to structure conversations with them, something that we still struggle with, and why the easy button everyone's selling you probably is a load of rubbish, quite honestly. And the bit I'm really interested in, she has a current obsession around MSPs monetizing AI opportunities. So we're going to talk about how to pitch that, how to think about partnering with other companies, and it's a great chat. So make sure you stick around. And a quick shout out to Sales Builder. They make this podcast possible. If you need to be creating proposals or quotes in your business and you use ConnectWise Autotask or Halo, make sure you go and check them out. They're making this possible. All right, enjoy the chat. I'll see you on the other side. Jennifer Bleam, Sales Sherpa, welcome to the podcast. It is fantastic to have you on. I'm so glad we managed to make this happen. And my first question to you, Jennifer, as I always start off these shows, is I'm going to kick off with a misconception about you. What do people get wrong about you when they first meet you?
So when they first meet me, they assume that I am an extrovert because they see me talking to people, and I've usually been on stage or in a breakout session, and I do genuinely like people, but I'm an introvert. By the time I talk to people for an hour or two or five, I'm done. Like, I just want to go in my room and curl up in a ball. And so pushing through and going to the networking events or going to dinner with people, it's a struggle. Again, I love people. It's not that I don't want to help, but it really does wear me out. So nobody believes me when I tell them that I'm an introvert, but I really am an introvert.
I've heard that a few times, and I've got to say, I can only imagine then what you must go through, because having been to one of your events over in Deep Ellum in Texas, I mean, you absolutely bring the energy on stage. So you must just deflate afterwards. I don't know. And it's for hours.
I do. I take 3 days off after every one of my events because I need to recharge. I am empty. I pour it all out. It's the epitome of leaving it all on the field, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But people are genuinely surprised. They're like, "What? You? No way!" My sister still argues with me to this day. She's like, "You are not an introvert." I'm like, "I am. Believe me, I am."
Amazing. Well, listen, if you're listening to this, you should always get along to one of Jennifer's events because she does always bring 100%, every time. But anyway, listen, we're not here to talk about the events. We're here to pick your brains on the topic of sales, and in particular, generating more business from existing customers. Now, you work with many, many MSPs, and you have done over the years. And I wonder if you could maybe help me try and highlight where these sort of perhaps MSPs that have come from a technical background that are looking to conduct, like regular conversations with their customers and ideally increase the wallet share, increase their spend. Where do you see them going wrong? Is there any areas that maybe stand out for you?
Let me start with the biggest that used to really surprise me, and it's that a lot of MSPs don't truly know their customers' businesses. So they can say, well, they're an attorney, or they're an oral surgeon, or maybe they're a manufacturing company. But as soon as I dig in more than that, oh, they're a manufacturing company. What are they creating? How many shifts do they run? Even those two questions that are pretty basic, that they could probably at least get one of those answers on the website and perhaps extrapolate extrapolate the other information just by revenue, number of employees they have, number of computers, even those basic questions, I can tell they don't have the answers. So that means they don't truly have a good relationship with their clients. Maybe they're getting paid and the ticket count is down and resolution is good and SLAs might be great, but if they don't have a intimate knowledge of their client's business, then the amount of know, like, and trust, which I know is like a trite saying, but there's a reason it's a saying. How much can someone really know, like, and trust you if you don't even know what makes their business tick? And so that's a big miss, because when you go into, let's say, a quarterly business review, or it's time for a renewal, or you want to add a new service line, like a lot of the MSPs I'm talking to now are interested in getting into AI enablement or consulting for their existing clients. You have to be selling the end result. You have to sell the benefits to the customer. And if you don't know the customer's business, then you're making broad benefit statements instead of specific benefit statements. And so that's a big miss. And in this day and age of AI, the answers are as simple as just a prompt away. So I'm a big prompt person. Someone called me a prompt engineer. I'm like, okay, I'll take it. It's fine. But something like analyze this company and then just insert the URL, identify the industry they belong to, any specific products or services that they might provide. What are they manufacturing, or who are they serving? Maybe any current trends and news related to this industry. Sometimes that will bring up compliance or cybersecurity or AI things. And you can say, have you read the latest newsletter from blank? And they're like, oh, I haven't gotten around to that. No, what would you like to tell me, Mr. MSP, Mrs. MSP, about my industry? And then you can also prompt the AI to say, provide some insights on how their thought leaders are talking about AI specifically in their industry, or how are they approaching this compliance challenge in their industry? And so you suggest talking points, AI use cases. How would you approach this from a compliance or a cybersecurity standpoint? So we don't have to guess anymore. We don't have to even go out to a website and extrapolate. We just can ask AI, and the world is at our fingertips.
Yeah, there really isn't an excuse, is there? That's brilliant. You've given a few examples there of the things that we should be looking for. How would you suggest people structure the sort of the conversation, perhaps? So I've for the first time I've done some AI research. I've got myself armed with this information now. I've got some industry knowledge, and I know I'm going to go meet with the client. But I also know that while I want to listen to their needs, I've got this service stack. I've got these projects I can offer. I've got all this sort of stuff. How do I structure the conversation so I can kind of marry the two things together? Do you have any advice there, or do you see any mistakes being made, maybe?
So the structure of the conversation, or the mentality you want to have when you're going into the conversation, is almost like you're sitting down with a friend and you're having coffee or you're having beer. You just have a conversation. Like, so often we go into these sales conversations, and I watch my clients go into these sales conversations and they stiffen up. And sometimes it's because they're uncomfortable selling, or they don't like sales, or they don't feel like a good salesperson. And so they do try to follow like a structure script, and just go in and be yourself. And so, just have a conversation. How are things going? Talk a little bit about the weather and sports, like not for a significant amount of time, but break the ice, do your typical break the ice. And then you can just say, by the way, I was just transparently, I was doing some research before we had this conversation, James. And have you read the latest issue of such and such trade publication? I looked at the headlines. Okay, can I tell you which thing jumped out to me? And of course they're going to say yes. Well, your president is saying that a lot of people are feeling a squeeze here, or you don't have to necessarily jump right into the AI or the compliance or cybersecurity. Pull out something else. This president of your association said that they're seeing a lot of organizations like you prepping for their tax season, or whatever, something that's timely. Have you done that yet? Are you ahead of the curve? you're just starting conversation, but you're showing that you care about their industry. And then they're like, no, we're a little bit behind with taxes, or yeah, we've got it all set thanks to Sally, our CFO. That's amazing. You know what else I saw in your industry publication? No, what's that? It looks like there's a lot of questions and confusion, maybe a little bit of angst around compliance. How are you handling that too? And because you've bookended it with something innocuous like how are you prepping for taxes, or how are you handling your end of year, or what are you doing for employee awareness, or whatever, you're pulling a different article and now you're just like, well, what about this? And it's very natural. It's not salesy in that they just feel like they're having a conversation with you, which is what you need. You just need them to open up and chat with you. And that's what you're doing. You're just breaking the ice in a really natural way.
And so but throughout that, you're sort of cleverly keeping a few pillars in your mind, aren't you? Of, okay, so as you said, cyber compliance and so on.
Yes.
Where would you, if you were running an MSP now, where would you be looking to try and, what would be at the top of your list? Would you be going, is it compliance? I've got a feeling you're going to say AI, given that you've just written a book on the topic. But go on, I'll let you answer that question.
It's 100% AI. Listen, I don't have the stats at my fingertips, but I know 75% of small business owners in 2025 are planning to spend more money on AI this year than they did last year, which makes sense because last year it was buzz, but it was new and we weren't really sure. Well, we were sure, but they were not really sure if it was here to stay. Is this just the new, I don't know, VHS machine or something? You know,
I suppose we should clarify as well, shouldn't we, Jennifer? We should probably clarify here when we're talking about AI. Obviously, there's AI and automation, there's ChatGPT, that sort of stuff. What are you thinking about when you're talking about this topic?
Yeah, I would start with just a conversation about workflows. Where do you have consistent, habits that are well defined? They have to be done. They're business crucial, but right now they're manual. And so it could be something like someone who's pulling numbers from 8 different systems and putting them into a single spreadsheet and doing it manually, manual data entry. Well, that's a great opportunity for an automation or an agent or something like that we can use AI. And I wouldn't talk about automations and agents. I would just say, where are you spending a significant number of hours per week? Maybe it's a consistent thing. Maybe it feels like a chore, but you can't ignore it. It has to get done. The box has to be checked because it's probably, if it's getting done consistently, there's probably a reasonably well documented process, which is an open door to say, we could use AI to completely take that off of your manager's plate. And now they actually have time to analyze the data. So instead of he or she spending, let's say 3 hours a week or 15 hours a month gathering the data and the spreadsheet's done, let me hit send, they could spend half that time and instead analyze the data, which is the whole point of gathering the numbers, is to look at them, not just to populate a spreadsheet. And so now, not only are we making your team more efficient, we're elevating your team because you probably hired them for their ability to think. You didn't hire them because they could pull numbers from a spreadsheet or from disparate tools like a monkey.
Yes,
so
exactly
let's elevate the team, and now we're making you more efficient and hopefully making you more money, saving time, all of those things.
So that's really good. So can you tell me, I've been to numerous events and things, and I've heard people sort of talking about AI and sort of the opportunity there and so on, but it always feels quite high level. It always feels a little bit vague. And I always get this sense that there's a massive gap between what the MSPs that I talk to would like to be doing and what they actually are capable of doing. What are you seeing out there in the space at the moment? Do you feel like that is the best way to go to sort of to partner? Is there a good place to start? Do you have? I know this isn't necessarily an area that you totally specialize in, but I'm just keen to know your take on it. What do you see out there?
So I'm seeing a couple of things. The more forward-leaning MSPs, I think many people feel like there is some way to monetize this AI buzz, but very few people have figured it out.
Yes.
Probably the bleeding edge is probably the 10 or 20% that want to be riding this wave. They are actively trying to figure it out. I had a conversation at IT Nation Secure a few months back, and I talked to an executive who says this is being discussed right now in our peer groups. Yes, there's something there, but almost no one has figured it out. So What I want to see, in my opinion, is that the MSPs and MSSPs should stay in the consultative relationship space that they play in reasonably well right now.
Yeah.
And they should partner with people who know the N8Ns or whatever's going to come out tomorrow, and they know how to build the agents. Maybe they even partner with them to come in and do that workflow mind map process, because it's a massive process to try to figure out yourself. Why not partner with someone? You do what you do best, which is having conversations. You have the know, like, and trust. The AI builders don't. I've had a dozen conversations in the last month with AI builders who I'm like, listen, it's just you and I. Nobody else is here. I love what you're building. How are sales going? Because, of course, I'm the salesperson. So I'm like, I want to know how. And they're like, well, and one of them was like, let me just be really frank. I underestimated how hard it was going to be to sell these things because they don't know me. The typical AI builder is selling to a cold audience, and there is no like, and trust. And so I'm actually building, by the time this goes live, it might be out there. I'm building an AI provider marketplace. So I'm vetting providers. We plan to disqualify 40%.
We didn't plan this. We didn't plan this topic of conversation, everyone.
No, not at all. Not at all. We've just put our vetting criteria together. My gut says we're going to end up disqualifying about 40% of providers because they don't understand security. They don't care about data governance.
Yeah.
They just throw
That's
out
another whole world of pain,
Yes,
isn't it? The security element to this.
It is. And so I say partner with someone, do what you do best, and outsource the rest.
I think you're absolutely right. And the thing is, what there is also is just this enormous amount of noise now from providers. So I think, that vetting process will really come into its own, because that's something people are going to struggle with. So interesting to get your take on that. Thanks.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure.
So listen, I want to pivot slightly away from AI, although it's a great topic. We can talk about that for a long time.
Of course.
I'm interested to know your take on sales processes. So it's something that we sort of live and breathe. But what does a good sales process look like to you? I'm putting you on the spot here slightly. But
yeah, you are. I was James. No, it's totally fine. I love talking about sales process. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
in terms of like the sort of when you're engaging with clients, and then there's post or proposal process, and then there's follow up and so on. I just wondered, like, do you have a take on what you think works really well with some of the clients you've worked with? Any sort of advice there to sort of improve conversions, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes. So I like a sales process that starts with the end in mind, right? We start at the end and we're like, what are some of the things that we don't want to see happen? Maybe we don't want to get, I need to think about it, or we don't want to get, that all sounds great, Jennifer, but I'm not the decision maker. Whatever those things are, that we get to the very end and we've spent however many hours, probably 8-ish hours on this, what we thought was a great opportunity, and then we get the wrong answer. We get an outcome we don't want. And so one of the sayings I use a lot is that every system is perfectly designed to get the result that it's getting. And so if you look at your closed opportunities and you're like, closed, lost, need to think about it, and that represents 70% of your closed lost, then your system is actually engineered to get you I need to think about it. So then we're like, that's what we don't want. What we do want is a yes.
Yeah, how do we stop that? How do we change that? That would be.
So then we reverse engineer, and we're like, well, okay, we have to qualify budget, so that probably should be done early in the process, so we don't waste too much time.
And this could be existing customers as well, right? So the same thing applies.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Whether it's compliance, okay, you're concerned about compliance, you're asking a lot of great compliance questions. This is amazing, James. Let me just ask you, this is going to be more of a timing. Is this something we need to attack this quarter, next quarter, or next year? And is that fiscal year, or is that calendar year? So we've just qualified timing. And then, okay, you want to address this quarter, let's say next quarter. You want to address this next quarter. Can we talk about budget? Because there's a few different ways we can do this. We can either, solve it all and get it in great shape in the first quarter, or we can stage it out over 2 quarters, 4 quarters. It really just depends on timing, but then also budget. So what do you have in mind in terms of budget? Again, very straightforward. We don't need to dance around the questions because we're, fingers crossed, hoping we get to the end of the process and they're not going to say what we don't want to hear. Let's just find out up front. And if they say, I have exactly $17 to put towards compliance this quarter, you can say, all right, well, let me be very frank. We're probably looking at, I'm just throwing numbers out there. We're probably looking at more like 1,700 a month. So when could we take a look at those kinds of dollars? Because you've told me it's a concern. So there's some need, maybe some urgency, but we don't have the budget to match. So we don't shy away from those conversations because
Is that what you see? Do you see that? Is that a common thing with
Yes.
with MSP? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, because I get messages all the time from clients that are like, I have another sales call. This is amazing. And then I'll follow up a couple of days after the sales call. Hey, you didn't come back with me. Oh, they weren't the decision maker. And I'm like, did you ask the question? Well, no, I just thought, or I was just hoping. And listen, we all get like happy ears. We see the bloated pipeline. It feels amazing. And so we kind of drift away from a process. Even if we have a perfect sales process, it's possible to drift. So I hear that a lot. Like I just assumed if they were calling me, they had the budget for managed services. I assumed if they were replacing one provider and switching to another, that they had the budget.
And it's not actually that difficult a question, is it? I think we probably just create this kind of this concern, this worry around something that's really a straightforward thing to ask, isn't it? Really,
Yes.
When and how much can you afford to spend?
It is 100%.
Are you tired of wasting time on basic proposal tools? Sales Builder goes beyond PDFs, automating your entire sales process to win more deals and boost profits. Do you want to have a look at how it works? First off, we provide you with the foundation of a nice, simple, centralized view of your companies, contacts, and all of the useful related data points, and that's automatically synchronized with your PSA. The most efficient MSPs are ruthless about only selling a standardized portfolio. Connect to your distributors for your hardware details and availability too, your PSA to pull in your managed services, and then clear out all of that noise and distraction of ad hoc products and services you've been selling over the years. Define a tight portfolio with service bundles, set your margins, specify standard up and cross-sell items, and make sure that everyone is doing the same thing right across the business. Once you're clear on exactly what you want to be selling, it's time to work out who you can sell it to. Our white space analysis module helps your sales teams get laser focused. Spot the upcoming contract renewals, anything you're underbilling, visualize the service gaps, and focus on the most profitable account growth opportunities. So you know what you're selling, you know you're selling to, it's time to send a proposal. Get beautiful, error-free, standardized and interactive quotes sent out without all that copying and pasting from supplier portals, adjusting templates, editing product information, all that stuff that just hemorrhages time and profit. With drag and drop content blocks and templates, you can make sure your document really resonates with your customers' needs or even their vertical, but in a way that's fast to produce because it's standardized. Plus, of course, customers can edit quantities and options there on the fly. They can e-sign, and you can see all of this going on right from within Sales Builder. Start your free trial today and see how much you could be missing. We have got a great team of real people with lots of experience here, so let's chat and see how Sales Builder can help you take your MSP to that next level.
And so let me ask you then, I've got to ask you about proposals. So when you're delivering proposals, do you have any sort of best practices around what should be in them and kind of like maybe sort of how you should deliver them or anything there? I'd love to know your take on that as well.
So let's talk about how to deliver them, because I definitely have an opinion on that. Never via email. That's number one.
Okay.
And number two.
Why is that?
Because what's going to happen if you get an email and it's a proposal, and let's pretend like it's for something you want, a brand new deck or an extension on your home, whatever. You're going to open up the proposal, and we all do it. We scroll all the way to the bottom to get the price. And it's always more than we were expecting. My husband and I have been in this house for about 20 years. We love our house. And it doesn't matter if it was 15 years ago when we were getting a new window, or it was 5 years ago when we were getting new Venetian blinds. it's almost always twice what we were hoping. Oh, I bet it's only $2,500 and it ends up being $5,000. I bet it's $5,000. Nope, it's 10. Like, I don't know if we're out of touch or if it's like I'm just hoping, like, and it seems to be universal. Things are always more expensive than we think they are. And so when you send the email, there's no pain, there's no relationship, there's no ability to remind you, well, James, this is probably going to be a little more than you were hoping for your Venetian blinds, but don't forget, you told me that at noon it's 90 degrees in your kitchen because the sun is streaming in, and you love the sunlight, but you want to filter it a little bit. You remember that? Okay, that doesn't come cheaply. Now let's look at the dollar figure. So don't email, because then you're going to get a lot of, I need to think about it, or I haven't looked at it yet, or maybe even just a non-response.
Put a video in there, Jennifer. I'm interested to know, because is a video a halfway house, or is it just a no-no? You just do it in person?
Video is probably a little bit better than an email, but I would either want in person or a Zoom or Teams call, just even like this, because I can watch your nonverbals, right? I can watch you look at them and go, and you kind of fold your hands.
The eyebrow movement, yes.
And we're done, So I would prefer in person, but a video call would work. And then I would position this as, great, James. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to take everything you told me. We're going to run the numbers. We're going to make sure we solve the urgent problems. Hopefully we can solve some of the important but not urgent problems. And then I'm going to come back. Let me explain my process to you. That phrase, let me explain my process to you, makes so many MSPs feel comfortable. They're like, oh, I have a process. I bet the prospect or the client will just go along with my process because they probably don't have one. So it's like, let me explain the process. I'm going to come back. I'm going to create that quote for compliance. And then what we're going to do together is go through our proposal. I'm going to answer all your questions, and you're just going to let me know if it makes sense to move forward or not.
Excellent. So you've really outlined how it's going to work from the get-go.
Because otherwise they're going to say, thank you for the proposal. Let's have a conversation. We'll get back to you. Which is like,
yes.
No, I don't want you to get back to me. I want a decision. Ideally, I want a yes, but a no is okay, because then I can say, okay, why not? Are we talking about timing, budget? Should we circle back, in a year, in a month? What are we talking about? Now we're having a conversation. There's open dialogue. If it's just, thanks for the proposal, we'll get back to you, most of the time they won't, because people lie, prospects lie, customers lie, or they just get busy. Compliance is important, but so is the hiring, the marketing, the acquisition, the roof that's leaking. Like, there's just like MSPs are busy with a million things, so are your clients. And so sometimes they will say, I'll get back to you, and they're being dishonest. But sometimes they have all of the intention in the world, and they just don't. It just slips their mind, and they can't believe how much time has gone by, and now they're embarrassed. So just get a decision on the spot and bring the contract with you, and get that signature. It won't always happen. Nothing's 100% guaranteed, but that's my advice, is to just, this is the closing. I'm presenting the proposal, and then we're going to talk about whether we're moving forward.
I think you've touched on it there, Jennifer. It seems to be like a perpetual issue with MSPs, probably in this sort of sales space, is that justifying the value. I hear this so much, so that I say I've just delivered a project. It might be, digital transformation or something. I've just proposed my pricing and stuff, but actually I'm struggling to get the value across of what it is that I do. Is it just a case of just picking up on what they've said and reminding them, or do you have any other ideas around that?
So the value is always in the eye of the beholder. So you do have to be able to frame what happens to them once they have this solution. And then the flip side of that is what could happen to them if they don't get this solution. So the business impact, or the impact to that person's role or that person's division.
Is that the best way to think about it? Almost like jobs to be done. Sort of think about what's important to them, and then
Yes.
in the delivery.
Yes, and people use the word impact or implication. Yep. That's what you want. And if you're in a sales situation and you recognize, okay, I don't think I've really sold the value. I don't think I told them what's in it for them. A great hack is to just pretend like you're in elementary school, like English, and just think who, what, when, where, why, how. Who would have to deal with the ransomware attack if it happened? What does it look like if you have a compliance issue and it needs to get resolved. How much more would you sleep at night if you knew this was handled? So just kind of run through who, what, when, where, why, how, and you'll be able to latch onto one of those and lean into it and have that conversation.
That's brilliant. I love a good framework. I need that kind of thing to prompt me on and be able to remember that.
Yeah, we get into a sales conversation and sometimes it's just flowing so well and we realize, oh no, I'm not really getting any closer to the sale. How do I right the ship? And so that framework is a good one for that too.
Yeah, I'm just having a good conversation. I think that's something I certainly can relate to that. You're having a good conversation, getting on well with someone, but you haven't actually addressed the things that you need to. So
100%.
Okay, so it's time that we go into the first of our segments, Jennifer. This one is Past the Pitchfork, and this is where we put a question to you from our previous guest. The previous guest was Harold Mann from Mann Consulting over there on the West Coast. Fascinating gentleman, and he's built an amazing business, but really not had a conscious focus on the sort of sales process specifically. He's kind of almost anti-sales, even though he's very good at it. And he was saying, look, even I still struggle with the issue of ghosting. I've got a great relationship with the customer. I've presented the proposal, and I guess we've touched on this a little bit already, but then I just don't hear back from them. And he's asking, have you got any words of advice that might help him out with that topic?
Yeah, so we talked about hey, we're going to come back and look at the investment and make sure it checks all the boxes that you need. So that's one way of approaching it. A second way would be if as you're walking out, you can just say, because if you're getting ghosted, if we reverse engineer that, you probably just heard, sounds good, I need to think about it. And so that's leading to one of two places on like a critical path. Either they're going to call you tomorrow, next week and say, sounds great, or they're going to ghost you. Very rarely are you going to get a call with a no. So you can work into your process. Again, we don't want the ghosting. And so you can just say, listen, sometimes people get busy. So I want to ask you for permission. I know we've got a call coming up in 10 or 12 weeks for another quarterly review. Are you okay if I bring this up if time just flies by and I don't have an answer from you? And they're probably going to say, oh, yeah, I plan to get you an answer, but if time slips by, yep, sure, bring it up in a quarter. And so that isn't a fast yes. It's not necessarily avoiding the ghosting, but it's almost managing for the expectation that you're going to get ghosted. So the ideal is that you've said, I'm coming out, I'm going to present the agreement, we're going to go over the pricing, make sure it makes sense, and you're going to tell me yes or no. But that's the ideal. But if they're not going to play by the rules and they don't want to give you an answer, or if perhaps you forgot to preface this call with that script and that talk track, then you can adjust on the fly and say, let's talk about it in a quarter if we haven't nailed this down.
That's brilliant. Harold, I think you've got a great answer there, especially given what we've been talking about already in the episode. I think there's a really nice framework there for really making sure that delivering proposals personally and then following up, setting guidelines of how it's going to work, your process, and then when you're going to come back. I think that's brilliant. Now listen, it's your turn to ask a question for our next guest. So what would you like to ask them? This is also going to be a sales expert, Mr. Alan Lloyd. He is a UK sales expert, and I'd love to hear what you've got to put to him to make his life difficult.
Okay, so I would love an answer to this myself because I have not been able to reconcile this at all. So for years, Datto has come out with a report that says that most small business owners do not have an MSP that they're working with. And at the same time, we look at the MSP marketplace and we see that most MSPs are struggling to grow, but most MSPs are serving small business owners. And I trust Datto. I think their data is accurate, but it feels like such a disconnect because on the surface, it feels like it would be a greenfield advantage. And, we're whatever, shooting fish in a barrel or whatever the right phrase is that's politically correct.
Yeah.
And yet, broadly speaking, MSPs are not growing rapidly. So I would like to know if he can help me reconcile those two facts with each other, because at its core, they have to be either a marketing or a sales issue or maybe a mindset issue. So that's my Pass the Pitchfork, which I think is such a clever name for this segment.
Oh, yeah, thanks. No, that's a great one to unpack. Yeah, I'd love to dive into that, but I think it's best to leave it till the next episode. You can tune in and have a listen to that one.
Sounds good.
Our next segment is Industry Manure. Now, this is where we get to think about things that really grind your gears, advice that you hear in the industry, or things that you hear that you just think, oh, I don't know, that doesn't really sit very well with me.
Okay, so as a rule, I don't throw other vendors under the bus. So I'm going to keep this broad because it applies to quite a few vendors, probably many vendors.
I was hoping for a but and then a real singling out at that point, but that's fine.
No, not this
You're a
time.
good person.
Sorry. Okay, but I will give you what annoys me, but I'm not going to name any vendors because a lot of vendors do this. And the idea is that if you use this marketing system or this selling system or this framework, or you come to this event or you use my tool, you'll be wildly successful. And so it's kind of the framework, if you will, is just do this and that equals success. So if we're looking at it like an equation, A equals B. My thing, my widget, my framework, my whatever equals success. And it's usually easy, fast, simple success is what's in that equation. And I have fallen victim to this myself. Join this coaching or this mastermind or this whatever, and you'll see instant success, overnight success. And the FTC here in the States is cracking down on that kind of thing because it's usually untrue and bogus. But as humans, we do want that easy button, and it's also easier to market than use my tool and put in 1 to 3 years of hard work and you'll see amazing success. That's just not as fun to sell. It's not as sexy. And so as humans, we're looking for the easy button, but there really isn't much of an easy button. It is defining your core values, defining your goals, and then chasing them relentlessly like a dog with a bone. And potentially getting up early, potentially working late on occasion. I'm all for work-life balance, but you'll have seasons. Right now I'm going through a push season. I think my laptop has had action on it every evening for the last 3 weeks. That's not the norm though. But I have very, very clear goals, and they're big goals, and they're things I've never done before. And so they're a little messy, but I'm chasing it. And so I would encourage people to almost become allergic to that easy button, to that easy. This tool is easy. It's going to solve all your problems. If you hear just do this, it's going to create that end result. You should put on your skeptical hat, because if it really worked that well, they would have sold 8 gazillion copies of their software tool, or they'd be they wouldn't have room for new clients because they were busy trying to hire coaches. They'd be booked solid for the next 2 years, or they'd have sold and bought an island. And so just be cautiously skeptical.
I think that's such good advice, particularly in our space, because you see it with tools, with gurus and so on. I mean, you only have to look at YouTube to see look at it now, the AI space, right? I mean, there's just endless gurus that have all popped up, and you think, okay, well, hang on a second. So if you know how to make £1 million in the space of a couple of weeks, then why exactly are you selling a course for $99.99?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Great advice. Well, that segues beautifully. You've been very busy recently, and the next segment is your yell from the barn. So this is where we get to find out where you'd like to direct the interest of the listeners. So what have you been up to recently, Jennifer, and what's in the pipeline for you?
So what I have been up to recently is really leaning hard into the AI space and figuring out how to help MSPs monetize AI. There's a lot of buzz, but there's also a lot of revenue out there that people need to figure out how to capture. So at time of recording, I am halfway through a beta group of MSPs that I am working with to help them get their first or subsequent AI sales. And it's the perfect beta group because I have a couple of clients in that beta group that have already been selling AI. They've got a great ecosystem. One of them has a full-time AI officer that all he does all day long is play with tools. It's kind of the dream job for someone like me. It's not so bad, yeah.
Just shiny things galore.
Yeah, get a 1 month subscription and play with it and just see what it does. And then all the way at the other end, I have MSPs that don't even have a subscription to ChatGPT or Copilot or any AI tools. And so it's a really, really great cross section of the industry to let me see what are their clients saying, what objections are they hearing, where are the opportunities. And so that's where I'm leaning in heavily right now, is to help MSPs monetize AI. And then what they're finding is, okay, here's an opportunity for an agent, an automation, or whatever, but I don't have the skill set, or my techs are fully utilized. They don't want to learn AI. They don't have time to learn AI. And so that's why I'm putting together the marketplace, so that they, the MSP, can find the need, partner with a contractor, please mark it up, because that's what business is all about, and then sell that product or service to your clients. So that's where I'm focused right now. And the book that you mentioned, that's been released, and so that is all about how to use AI specifically in your sales process. So, and again, just leaning heavily into the AI side of things.
That's fantastic. Okay, cool. So I've got a few links to put into the show notes then. So you better get all these from our Sales Builder show notes page that's got the Harvest episodes on it. So we've got a marketplace, we've got a book. Did you say, so is that a community? Obviously you've got a community now, but are you recruiting for the community as well, are you, for the next cohort?
Recruiting for the community, recruiting for the marketplace, both on the MSP side and the provider side, while promoting a book.
Wow. No wonder your laptop's been working overtime.
Agreed.
Jennifer, it's been a pleasure having you on. I'm so glad we managed to make this happen. It's been a few months in the making. I know you're extremely busy, so I really appreciate you giving us some of your time. And it's been wonderful chatting to you. So I wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll get a chance to speak to you again a little bit down the road and see how things are going and see how it's all panning out with your new ventures that you're adding to the already very successful ventures that you've got going on.
Amazing. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Oh, that was a good one. Once again, I feel way more intelligent than I did when I first started recording that. Thank you to Jennifer Bleam, another brilliant guest with loads of experience. Crikey, she has the credentials to back up what she's saying. And what I really like about Jennifer is that she has this unstoppable entrepreneurial spirit. So every time I talk to her, there's something else going on in her world. She's launching something new, really interesting, always fun to catch up. But she gave you some tactical advice, and that is what you're here for after all. We talked about the need to understand your customers properly. When you look down your client list, definitely your top ones, you really need to understand their industry and be able to, tell anyone about them within 30 seconds. A nice elevator pitch about those customers and the industry challenges that they face. Once again, Jennifer reinforced the need to make sure you're having human conversations and not just pitching. We talked about proposals and how important it is to deliver those in person. So you can email it, but make sure you're calling straight away, or you're presenting it to them, while you're able to actually clarify and tackle objections and actually guide them through that process. Don't just leave them to scroll to the pricing page and then, lose interest and ghost you. Also, we talked a little bit about how to pitch AI. So understanding the workflows is so important, not just looking for, I've got a new shiny tool from Microsoft or a new feature I can share. Don't do that. Make sure you understand what it is you're actually trying to solve, what the repeatable processes are. And then finally, she didn't pitch it too hard, but I think it's a really interesting concept that she's working on at the moment, and that was the AI partner database. Now, it's a big gulf between where MSPs are now, most of them, I suspect, between where they are now and where they want to be in terms of AI and providing AI-based services. So I think partnering is a fantastic option to at least explore. So keep that in mind, whether it's via Jennifer's provider directory or whether it's some other way, then just keep that in mind as an option. And finally, she mentioned about watch out for those easy buttons. They don't exist. It's been a pleasure having you. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you found it educational. I will see you next time. Happy harvesting. That is it for this episode of Harvest. If you found this useful, all the links we mentioned are in the show notes. And of course, if you enjoyed it, please do leave us a review and share it with a friend, or even better, someone else in the industry who you know would get value from it. Until next time, happy harvesting.